The vast emptiness of space held many secrets, but none quite as intriguing as the ancient vessel that drifted silently through the Orion sector. The Galactic Alliance patrol fleet, led by the imposing warship Starseeker, first detected the mysterious object during their routine border surveillance. Commander Stone of the Starseeker leaned forward in his command chair, his gray skin reflecting the soft blue light of the bridge displays. His large eyes narrowed as he studied the readings before him. "What do we have here?" he asked, antenna twitching with curiosity. "Sir, preliminary scans show it's an old human warship," reported Officer Red, his tentacles dancing over the control panel. "Very old by our standards. The design appears to be at least 2 centuries behind current technology." The bridge crew exchanged amused glances. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. Finding one of their older vessels this far out in space was unusual, to say the least. "Put it on the main screen," Commander Stone ordered. The massive display flickered to life, revealing a dark, angular shape against the starfield. The vessel was massive, easily matching the Starseeker in size, but its design spoke of a primitive age. Its hull was marked with what appeared to be traditional chemical propulsion engines, and its weapon systems seemed laughably outdated. "Look at those thermal exhaust ports," Officer Blue chuckled from his station. "They're still using nuclear fission for power generation. How quaint." Commander Stone rose from his chair and walked closer to the screen. Something about the vessel made his instincts tingle. "Run a full spectrum analysis. I want to know everything about that ship." The scan results only amplified the crew's amusement. The vessel showed minimal power readings, its systems appeared to be in hibernation, and its weapons were cold and lifeless. Various alien scripts decorated its hull, evidence of different species having encountered and marked it over the years. "Sir, I can make out its name," Officer Red announced. "It appears to be called Relic." "How fitting." The bridge erupted in laughter. Even Commander Stone couldn't suppress a smile. The humans had a habit of giving their ships grandiose names like Devastator or Planet Crusher, but Relic seemed unusually honest for them. "Well, according to galactic law, any vessel abandoned in neutral space for more than a standard cycle becomes salvage," Commander Stone declared. "And this ship has clearly been drifting for much longer than that. Contact Central Command and inform them we found an interesting addition to the military museum." As the crew began preparations for salvage operations, Officer Green spoke up from the sensor station. "Sir, there's something odd about the power readings. They're minimal, yes, but they're consistent, almost too consistent." Commander Stone dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "It's probably just some backup systems running on emergency power. Nothing to worry about." He turned to his communications officer. "Send out a salvage claim beacon. This relic is ours now." The Starseeker moved closer to the ancient vessel, its tractor beams preparing to lock on. The rest of the patrol fleet maintained their distance, their crews already betting on what outdated technologies they might find inside. None of them noticed the slight fluctuation in the relic's power signature as they approached. None of them saw the almost imperceptible glow that briefly lit up a series of strange markings along its hull. And none of them could have guessed that their laughter would soon turn to something very different indeed. As Officer Red prepared the boarding teams, he made one final scan of the vessel. "Sir, should we be concerned about any security systems?" Commander Stone laughed again. "On that ancient heap of metal. It probably still uses mechanical locks and keypads. Just make sure the boarding teams wear environment suits. Who knows what kind of primitive atmosphere they used back then." The massive human warship hung silently in space, its dark hull absorbing the light from nearby stars. To the alien fleet, it was nothing more than an obsolete relic, a curious piece of human history ready for the scrapyard. They were about to learn a valuable lesson about judging books by their covers, or in this case, warships by their appearances. Little did they know, The name Relic was about to take on a whole new meaning. The alien boarding team moved through the airlock of the ancient human warship with practiced efficiency. Captain Mark of the Salvage Division led the way, his environment suit humming softly as he stepped onto the main deck. Behind him, 5 other crew members spread out, their lights cutting through the darkness. "First impressions, team?" Mark asked, his voice crackling over the comm system. "Everything's clean," Officer Tom replied, running a gloved hand along a nearby wall. "No dust, no decay. For a ship that's supposedly been drifting for years, it's in remarkable condition." The corridors stretched before them, remarkably wide compared to modern alien vessels. The ceiling towered overhead, and thick support beams ran along the walls at regular intervals. Everything was built on a massive scale, speaking of an era when humans hadn't yet mastered the miniaturization technologies common in current ships. "Look at these control panels," Officer Bill called out, his light illuminating a row of what appeared to be physical buttons and switches. They're still using manual interfaces. No neural links, no thought controls. Primitive doesn't begin to describe it. As they moved deeper into the ship, they encountered more puzzling details. Warning signs in multiple languages lined the walls, some of them so old that the translation software in their suits struggled to decode them. Most seemed to be saying the same thing. "Danger. Restricted area." "Captain," Officer Lisa called out, "you might want to see this." She stood before a massive blast door, easily 3 times thicker than anything used in modern ships. Why would they need something this heavy? Mark approached the door, his scanner working to analyze its composition. "Strange. The metal alloy isn't in our database. And look at these markings. They're not just decorative. They form some kind of pattern." The team continued their exploration, documenting everything they found. The bridge, when they finally reached it, was a stark contrast to their sleek, modern command centers. Instead of the holographic displays and neural interface pods they were used to, they found rows of physical control stations, each covered in switches, dials, and actual glass screens. "This must be the captain's chair," Officer Tom said, approaching a large, heavily armored seat in the center. "But why is it built like a bunker? And what are all these manual override switches for?" As they examined the bridge, Officer Lisa made another discovery. "Captain, I'm picking up faint power signatures from below us. There seems to be a lower level that wasn't on our initial scans." "Impossible," Mark replied. "We scanned this ship thoroughly from the outside. There can't be." He trailed off as his own instruments confirmed the reading. "Well, this is interesting." They found the access hatch to the lower level hidden behind what appeared to be an ordinary maintenance panel. The hatch itself was made of the same unknown alloy as the blast doors, and bore more of the strange markings. "Should we try to open it?" Officer Bill asked, already reaching for the manual release. "Wait," Mark commanded, something in his gut telling him to be cautious. "Let's do this by the book. Full scan first, then we'll." His words were cut off by a deep, resonating hum that seemed to come from the very bones of the ship. The lights in their suits flickered momentarily, and their instruments went haywire for a split second. "What was that?" Lisa asked, her voice tense. "Probably just some old system cycling down," Mark replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "Remember, this is ancient technology. Nothing to worry about." But as they stood there in the dim light of their suits, another sound reached them. A series of clicks and whirs, like massive machinery coming to life. And then, most disturbing of all, a voice spoke from hidden speakers, the words in perfect standard galactic. "Unauthorized presence detected on command deck. Initiating security protocols." The team looked at each other nervously. This wasn't the behavior of a dead ship. This wasn't the behavior of a relic at all. "Captain," Tom said quietly, "I don't think this ship is as abandoned as we thought." The humming grew louder, and somewhere deep in the ship, something very large and very powerful began to move. The Star Seeker's bridge erupted in chaos as alarms blared through their communication channels. Commander Stone watched in disbelief as the boarding team's life signs spiked with panic. Before he could issue any orders, a small human transport ship dropped out of hyperspace barely 1,000 meters from the ancient vessel. "Sir," Officer Red shouted, "the human ship is hailing us." "Put them through," Commander Stone ordered, his antennae twitching with irritation at this unexpected development. The main screen flickered to life, showing a single human in what appeared to be an old-style military uniform. He looked young, maybe in his 30s by human standards, with short black hair and steady eyes. "This is Engineer James of the Earth Defense Force," the human announced calmly. "I believe you're currently attempting to salvage my ship." Commander Stone drew himself up to his full height. "Your ship? This vessel has been abandoned in neutral space, making it legal salvage under galactic law, Section 47B. James smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. The Relic was never abandoned. She's been waiting." As if responding to his words, the massive ship's external lights began to activate one by one, casting a harsh glow across its dark hull. The boarding team's panicked voices filled the command channel. "Captain, the ship's systems are powering up. We can't access any controls. The doors are sealing themselves." James pulled out what looked like an ancient metal key from his pocket. "I suggest you withdraw your boarding team immediately. The Relic doesn't like uninvited guests." Commander Stone's skin paled slightly. "You're bluffing. That ship's technology is centuries old. It can barely maintain life support." "Is it?" James inserted the key into something off-screen. "Let me show you something interesting." The moment he turned the key, the Relic transformed. Panels that had appeared to be solid hull plating split apart, revealing modern weapon systems. The seemingly primitive engines glowed with unmistakable antimatter signatures. The outer shell of aged metal seemed to ripple and shift, revealing a gleaming hull of advanced nanomaterials underneath. "What you saw," James explained, his voice still calm, "was exactly what we wanted you to see. The Relic is humanity's greatest achievement in military deception. Every scratch, every outdated component, every primitive system was carefully designed to fool overconfident observers." On the Star Seeker's bridge, tactical displays were going crazy. Where their scans had shown minimal power readings, they now detected energy signatures that surpassed their own warship's capabilities. The supposedly ancient vessel was bristling with weapons that hadn't even been theoretical when it was supposedly built. "Your boarding team is currently locked in the observation deck," James continued. "They're safe, but I suggest you retrieve them quickly. The Relic's internal defense systems are enthusiastic about protecting classified areas." Commander Stone watched as more systems activated across the massive ship. What they had dismissed as thermal exhaust ports were actually housing for point defense turrets. The thick hull they had mocked was revealed to be multiple layers of advanced armor and shield generators. "Impossible," Officer Blue whispered. "The humans couldn't have had this technology back then. They couldn't have." "We didn't," James agreed. "But we knew we would. The Relic was built recently, designed to look old, and positioned precisely where ambitious salvagers would find it. Consider it a lesson in humility." The Relic's engines flared to life, the gentle hum building to a thunderous roar that could be felt even through the vacuum of space. Its presence, once dismissed as harmless, now dominated the sector with unmistakable authority. "Now," James said, his smile finally reaching his eyes, "shall we discuss the proper procedures for returning my boarding party? And perhaps afterward, we can have a conversation about the dangers of underestimating primitive vessels." Commander Stone looked at his tactical display, then at the transformed warship before him, and made the only sensible decision. "Open a channel to the boarding team," he ordered. "Tell them to prepare for immediate evacuation." The Relic hung in space, no longer pretending to be harmless, its true nature finally revealed. And in that moment, Every alien vessel in the sector learned a valuable lesson about appearances and about humans. The alien boarding team huddled in the observation deck of the Relic, watching through reinforced windows as their own ships maintained a nervous distance. Captain Mark paced back and forth, his environment suit's sensors still trying to make sense of the transformed vessel around them. "How?" Officer Lisa asked, staring at the now active control panels that lined the walls. "How did we miss this?" A door hissed open behind them, and Engineer James walked in, no longer speaking through communications channels but present in person. He wore a simple uniform with an insignia none of them recognized, a phoenix rising from what appeared to be an ancient sailing ship. "The real question," James said, "isn't how you missed it. It's why we wanted you to miss it." He walked to one of the control panels and pressed a sequence of buttons. The room's lights dimmed, and a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the chamber. "This," he gestured at the rotating image of the Relic, "is humanity's greatest experiment in psychological warfare. Everything you saw, every outdated system, every apparent weakness, was meticulously crafted to tell a story." The hologram shifted, showing layers of the ship peeling away like an onion. Beneath the seemingly primitive exterior lay systems that made the aliens' technology look obsolete. Quantum computing cores disguised as old transistor banks. Antimatter reactors hidden behind fake nuclear cooling systems. Artificial gravity generators masked as clunky rotating sections. "But why?" Captain Mark asked, his professional curiosity overcoming his fear. "Why create such an elaborate deception?" James smiled, touching another control. The hologram changed to show historical footage of human ships being attacked by various alien races. "Because humanity learned early on that looking weak is sometimes the greatest strength. When we first reached the stars, we were attacked constantly. Everyone assumed we were easy targets." The display showed the Relic's construction, revealing how each system was deliberately designed to appear outdated while housing cutting-edge technology. "So we built this ship as both a warning and a lesson. Those who would judge us by our appearance would learn their mistake firsthand." Officer Tom stepped closer to the hologram, his scientific training evident in his fascination. "These systems, they're decades ahead of anything we have. The power generation alone is sufficient to power a small city," James confirmed. "The Relic carries enough firepower to handle a small fleet, but that's not its true purpose. It's a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, especially when dealing with humans." He walked to the window, pointing at the alien fleet that still hovered at a safe distance. "Your people saw what they expected to see. A primitive human vessel, easy salvage, something to mock. You never questioned why a ship this size would be left in such a strategic location. You never wondered why its power readings were so perfectly consistent." The hologram shifted again, showing the ship's true capabilities. Advanced shield systems that could shrug off capital ship weapons, stealth technology that could make it virtually invisible, weapons that could target multiple ships simultaneously with pinpoint accuracy. "The name Relic itself was part of the deception," James continued. "In human history, some of our most powerful weapons were disguised as harmless relics, waiting for the right moment to reveal their true nature." Captain Mark finally stopped pacing. "So what happens now? Are we your prisoners?" James shook his head. "No, you're our messengers. You'll return to your ships with a story to tell. A story about how appearances can be deceiving, and how judging someone's capabilities based on their perceived technological level is a dangerous mistake." The hologram faded, leaving the room in normal lighting once again. Through the windows, the Relic's true form was now clearly visible, its advanced systems humming with barely contained power. "Your commander has already agreed to withdraw," James said, moving toward the door. "You'll be escorted back to your ship shortly. But remember this day. Remember what you learned about human ingenuity." As he left, the aliens looked at each other, then back at the transformed warship around them. They had boarded this vessel expecting to find a primitive relic of the past. Instead, they had discovered something far more valuable: a lesson about underestimating humanity that they wouldn't soon forget. The Star Seeker's bridge was tense as Commander Stone watched his boarding team return safely to the ship. On the main screen, the Relic loomed larger than ever, its true nature now unmistakable. The commander's fingers drummed against his armrest as he considered his options. "Sir," Officer Red reported, "3 more ships have dropped out of hyperspace. They're Dreadnought-class vessels from the High Command." A new voice boomed across all communication channels. "This is Admiral Black of the Galactic Alliance High Command. The human vessel is to power down immediately and prepare for full military inspection. Failure to comply will result in immediate hostile action." Commander Stone saw James's face appear on a split screen, still wearing that unnervingly calm expression. "I'm afraid I can't do that, Admiral. The Relic is a sovereign vessel of Earth, and your ships are currently in weapons range." "Weapons range?" Admiral Black scoffed. "Your single ship against 3 dreadnoughts. This is no time for human bravado." The Relic's response came not in words, but in action. A series of bright points of light appeared along its hull, each one marking the location of a weapon system far more advanced than anything the aliens had seen before. The ship's engines pulsed with controlled power, positioning it perfectly between the alien fleet and its only escape route. "Interesting fact about human history," James said conversationally. "We've won wars against superior numbers countless times. Would you like to know how?" Before Admiral Black could respond, the Relic demonstrated. A pulse of energy rippled out from the ship, passing harmlessly through the alien vessels. When it cleared, every targeting system, every weapons lock, every strategic advantage the dreadnoughts had was gone. "What did you do?" Admiral Black demanded, his voice losing its commanding tone. "A simple demonstration," James replied. "That was a targeted electromagnetic pulse, modified to affect only military systems. Your life support and basic functions are unharmed, but your weapons," he shrugged. "Let's just say they're taking a brief vacation." Commander Stone watched his tactical display flash with warning signals. The Relic was now projecting an energy field unlike anything in their database. Their most advanced scanners couldn't penetrate it, couldn't even begin to understand it. "That's impossible," one of the dreadnought captains protested. "Our shields are designed to block such attacks." "They are," James agreed. "Or rather, they're designed to block what you think such attacks should be. Humanity learned long ago that the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't believe exists." The Relic moved again, its massive form graceful despite its size. With precise movements, it positioned itself so that each dreadnought was covered by multiple weapon systems. The alien crews watched in growing unease as their tactical displays showed weapon locks they couldn't break, targeting systems they couldn't jam. "I'm going to make this very simple," James said. "The Relic isn't just a ship. It's a message, a reminder that humanity will not be underestimated, will not be bullied, and will not be treated as primitive simply because we choose not to flaunt our true capabilities." Admiral Black's face had lost its arrogant expression. "You've made your point, but the High Command will not forget this incident." "That's exactly what we're counting on," James replied. The Relic was designed to be found, to be dismissed, and then to teach a lesson that couldn't be ignored. Consider today's lesson successfully delivered. One by one, the weapon locks disengage. The Relic's energy field pulsed once more, and suddenly the alien ship's systems returned to normal. Their weapons were back online, their scanners functional, but now they hesitated to use them. "You're free to leave," James said. "Your ships, your crews, everything intact. Take this story back to your High Command. Let them know that humanity's relics are not what they appear to be, and perhaps next time, they'll think twice before assuming they know what we're capable of." The alien fleet began to withdraw, their massive ships turning away from the confrontation. They had arrived expecting to overwhelm a single primitive vessel. They left with the uncomfortable knowledge that they had never been in control of the situation at all. As they retreated, the Relic's engines glowed brighter, a reminder of power held in check, of strength hidden beneath deception. It was a sight none of them would ever forget. After the alien fleet's departure, Commander Stone found himself in an unexpected situation. Rather than leaving, his ship had received an invitation. Now he stood in the Relic's true command center, watching as James accessed the ship's historical archives. "You deserve to know the whole truth," James said, activating a holographic display that filled the chamber. The Relic's story began during humanity's darkest hour. The display showed Earth, decades earlier, surrounded by hostile alien fleets. When we first achieved faster-than-light travel, we discovered a harsh reality. Many species saw us as easy targets, primitive newcomers to be conquered or exploited. Images flashed by. Human colonies under attack, ships being destroyed, desperate battles for survival. But humanity has always had one great strength. We learned from our mistakes, and we learned that appearing weak could be more valuable than showing strength. The hologram shifted to show the Relic's original design meetings. This ship was conceived by our best military minds, engineers and psychologists working together. They asked one question: how do we create a weapon that our enemies will ignore until it's too late? Commander Stone watched as the construction process unfolded before him. The outer hull was deliberately aged, made to look centuries old. Every system was designed with two layers: the visible, seemingly primitive exterior, and the true technology hidden beneath. But why go to such lengths? Stone asked, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his earlier fear. James gestured, and the display showed hundreds of similar ships under construction. Because the Relic isn't unique. It's a prototype, the first of its kind. Right now, humanity has an entire fleet of ships that look just as harmless, scattered throughout the galaxy. The implications hit Stone like a physical blow. You mean every abandoned human ship, every primitive vessel your people have cataloged and dismissed, they're all waiting, not for attack, but to defend themselves if attacked. Each one is a reminder that appearances can be deceiving. The hologram now showed the Relic's first deployment. We launched this ship 5 years ago, knowing it would be found. We loaded it with enough technology to make our point without revealing our true capabilities. Everything that happened today was planned, predicted, and prepared for. The boarding, the discovery, even our arrival, it was all a test. Stone's antennae twitched with understanding. A test and a message, James confirmed. The Relic carries within it the history of human warfare. We've learned that the best defense isn't always a visible show of force. Sometimes, it's letting your enemies think they have the advantage. The display showed moments from human history: wooden horses hiding warriors, simple-looking vessels concealing powerful weapons, primitive-seeming defenses that held off superior forces. This ship's logs contain thousands of examples of humanity using deception to overcome superior forces. But it also contains something more important. James touched a control, and the hologram showed scenes of peaceful cooperation between species. It shows what happens when different civilizations learn to respect each other, regardless of their apparent level of advancement. Commander Stone watched as the final images played out. The Relic's years of waiting, the careful monitoring of those who passed it by, the collection of data on how different species reacted to its presence. So what happens now? Stone asked, looking around at the advanced command center that had so effectively masqueraded as an obsolete relic. Now you return to your people with knowledge, James replied, not just of our capabilities, but of our philosophy. Humanity doesn't want war. We don't want conquest. We simply want respect and the right to develop in our own way, at our own pace. The hologram faded, leaving them in the softly lit command center. Through the windows, Stone could see his ship looking small and vulnerable next to the revealed power of the Relic. Remember this day, Commander, James said quietly. Remember that sometimes the most powerful weapons are the ones that never appear threatening at all. And remember that humanity will always have surprises for those who would underestimate us. Stone nodded slowly, understanding at last the true purpose of the vessel he had so casually dismissed hours earlier. The Relic wasn't just a ship, it was a testament to human ingenuity, a warning to potential aggressors, and most importantly, a teacher of profound lessons about judgment and appearance. 1 month after the Relic incident, the Galactic Alliance Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss the implications of what had become known as the Relic Revelation. Commander Stone stood before the assembly, delivering his final report. The massive chamber fell silent as he spoke, his words echoing through the hall. Distinguished members of the Council, I stand before you today to share what we've learned. The vessel we encountered wasn't just a ship, it was a message, written in a language we all understand. The language of power and deception. The holographic displays showed the Relic's transformation, causing murmurs among the assembled delegates. We discovered that humanity has been playing a game we didn't even know existed. While we focused on displaying our advancement, they focused on hiding theirs. In the diplomatic section, James sat quietly, watching the proceedings with that same calm smile. Next to him, several human representatives maintained equally composed expressions. Our initial scans of human territory have revealed something disturbing. Stone continued. We've identified at least 30 ships similar to the Relic, all strategically positioned, all appearing to be harmless derelicts. And these are just the ones we can find. The chamber erupted in concerned discussions. A senior council member raised his hand. Are you suggesting these vessels pose a threat to galactic peace? No, Stone replied firmly. I'm suggesting they guarantee it. Each ship serves as a reminder that appearance and reality are often very different things. The humans have created the perfect defensive network, one that we dismissed as space debris. The displays showed new data, recordings from the Relic's encounter with the dreadnoughts, analysis of its technological capabilities, and projections of its true power. The council members watched in growing understanding as the full scope of human ingenuity became clear. But perhaps most importantly, Stone continued, is what they didn't do. The Relic could have destroyed our ships. Instead, it taught us a lesson. The humans could have used their hidden fleet for conquest. Instead, they use it for protection. James stood now, walking to the center of the chamber as Stone concluded his report. The council turned their attention to him, seeing the human representative in a new light. Members of the council, James began, humanity doesn't seek dominance, we seek understanding. The Relic project wasn't born from a desire for war, but from a hope for peace through mutual respect. He activated a new hologram, showing the galaxy with points of light marking known human vessels. Every ship like the Relic carries within it two possibilities: the power to defend itself, and the wisdom to avoid using that power unless absolutely necessary. The council chamber was silent as James continued. We offer you a choice today. We can continue the old way, judging species by their apparent level of technology, assuming that newer means better, treating those who seem primitive as inferior, or we can begin a new chapter. The main display showed scenes from the Relic's transformation, but this time focused on the moment when weapons were powered down, when conflict was avoided, when understanding was reached. The Relic teaches us that appearance and reality are often far apart, James said. Humanity appears young among the stars, but we carry ancient wisdom. We appear primitive in some ways, but we understand things that matter more than technology. We appear weak at times, but that appearance is often our greatest strength. The council deliberated for hours after the presentations. In the end, they reached a unanimous decision. The Galactic Alliance's charter was amended to include new provisions against technological discrimination. The practice of salvaging apparently abandoned ships was revised. And most importantly, a new era of interspecies relations began. As the session concluded, Commander Stone approached James. You knew this would happen, didn't you? From the moment we found the Relic, this was the real goal. James nodded, watching the council members depart. Sometimes the best way to change the future is to appear to be a relic of the past. Humanity learned that lesson long ago, and now the galaxy has learned it too. The relic remained in space, now officially recognized as a human military vessel. But its true purpose had been fulfilled, not as a weapon of war, but as an instrument of change, teaching the galaxy that true power often lies not in what is shown, but in what is hidden until the right moment.